Episode number 4.
Episode 4. Yeah, I didn't even think it was that many so far.
What did we have upgraded this time?
We got ice in our water.
It's
huge.
What else do we got? Nothing really.
I mean, we started quickly and then we kind of slowed down, but
yeah,
we're at a pretty good point right now.
We got more prep work. We got more prep work done on all this.
Yeah, we got to do more editing now with everything we have.
That was a task.
But I feel like we can only go so much farther. Like, I feel like we're at a good point for 4 episodes in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways that we can, like, what we can do, like how else can we figure this out? The only thing I can think about is maybe more pictures.
Yeah, I know. Like, I feel like we can get, like, these are pretty good mics, but I feel like we can get better mics. You know, get our own studio, better camera. Just really get the whole setup going, like you see in these other podcasts.
What was the other thing that I was thinking? It had to do with. Oh, we should ask if people like. Would you guys like 2 cameras? Like for one of us, one for each of us.
I feel like the editing's a lot harder, but
we
can make it happen.
I mean, we're not afraid of work. I mean, we can do the work on it if that's what it calls.
If people enjoy it more, I will definitely we'll put in more work.
I mean, I've been looking on Amazon for podcast stuff, and I mean, we pretty much have everything.
Yeah, it's only the better stuff, the more expensive stuff.
Right.
That's all you can get into.
I saw a cheap camera on Amazon. It was like $150. I think it was like $150 maybe, and it was a 4K camera with a whole light and everything.
No, we're not getting that.
And I was like, how can you get a 4K camera for $150?
Technology's getting good, but it's not that good.
They send us a Polaroid in the mail.
Yeah.
They're just like, this is what you get.
Yeah,
that's it.
There's no way. It'll come in and it'll be like 1080p. It'll be 720p. It'll be all grainy.
It's literally just pixels.
It's like some Chinese knockoff.
I actually just watched that movie. Have you ever seen Pixels with Adam Sandler?
No, I haven't seen it, but I know the basis of it.
It's so good. It's about. Me and Caitlin just watched it, and I convinced her to watch it because I was like, I've heard this is a good movie, and so we turn it on, and she never laughs at any movie ever.
Yeah, she's just watching it.
And she was
because she likes those true crime, scary ones.
No, her favorite is like Impractical Jokers.
That's a good show.
She loves it. I mean, every time we watch it, she is crying, laughing.
Those guys are so funny.
They are pretty funny.
The best is like the end one when they get the punishment.
Yeah, their punishments are always the best.
Yeah, it's like go into this like group of kids and like do the just most outrageous stuff, and
or when
they
they're
just
in front of the whole old people group.
It's always like a group of people. Go in front of this group and do this. It's like.
Did you see the one where they're in the waiting room? Like, they're sitting in the waiting room, and they're all, like, trying to make each other laugh to get each other out.
No.
Like, for the punishments.
No.
Oh, my God. That video is so funny. I mean, it's literally, like, the one guy pulls up on a literal luggage with wheels, and it's motorized. And so he's
one of the jokers.
Yeah, what's the guy's name? He's
Sal?
No, see, Sal's
Murray.
like Murray. It was Murray for sure.
Yeah, the skinnier guy.
Yeah. And he comes wheeling up on one of those, and Sal gets out, and he's fucking dying laughing. It's a good show.
Yeah,
they really do a good job with that show, and they don't even consider it like a prank show. Like, I was watching the Sal and Bert podcast.
Yeah.
That they did for Two Bears One. Well, they did one episode of Two Bears One Cave. I don't know what was happening with Tom at the time, but Sal came on as a guest speaker and he was saying that they don't even consider it like a joke show. It's not a prank show. They consider it like jokes, like, because they're comedians.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's like a comedy show. But speaking of shows, you see Jeopardy just like came out and they announced their new hosts. One of them was Ken Jennings, like the old. He like won the most money out of everybody, like many million, and it also said like they consider that show an entertainment show, but there's a lot of facts and everything.
It's definitely entertaining. I mean,
it's entertaining.
If you're like,
it's a game.
If you're like low-key nerds like
Yeah,
us, where
yeah.
we find like the most, sciencey and innovative stuff interesting,
Yeah.
then I think that show would be interesting. I mean, I love facts.
You don't watch it?
No.
Oh, I watch it all the time.
The only thing I watch really is podcasts. That's why I wanted to start this one, because I watch so many of them. Why not put our interesting conversations on film?
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I go up north, that's when I watch it the most. When I'm up at my grandma's house, and it's so funny. I'll be sitting there, and it'll come up with like, like the pop culture, like the new like facts about like singers or something, or just like artists. And I'll be answering. My grandma's like, "Oh, you're so smart. They should put you on there." And it's like, yeah, no, because I don't know if I can get the the history of like the history of like Australia, like, but it's so funny. She's
It's
like,
so funny
you're
how
such a genius.
how much grandmas hype up.
Yeah.
Like grandmas are like the first person you won't need to feel good. At least my grandma is. I mean,
Yeah.
like, hey, and your grandma is too. Like you go.
All grandmas.
Yeah.
Most grandmas.
Yeah, I should say we can't generalize.
We can't
here.
generalize.
Yeah.
Most grandmas though.
No, most grandmas, if you need a piece of advice or you need someone to hype you up, you go talk to your grandma and be like, "Grandma, I just took a crap today," and she's like, "Oh my god,
Oh my
you're
god,
awesome."
that's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a solid one.
Yeah.
Good curvature,
Oh,
good
for
length.
sure.
But imagine if we showed our grandmas this podcast.
My grandma just said she was listening to it with Andrew.
Oh, they were listening to
Yeah,
it.
and so she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited to watch you." And
Of
I'm like, "I'm
course.
just gonna let you know, I swear." And
What'd
she's
she
like,
say?
"Oh, I don't care. You're almost 21. You're fine." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. What?
That's
But she'll love it.
Oh,
right?
I was talking to her about the hollow moon theory that we were talking about last time.
Yeah.
And she was just like just face, like jaw dropped, and she's like,
Yeah.
"It rang? It
Yeah.
rang for 20 minutes?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "It was even longer than that, Grandma." And she's like, "Oh my God, I've been lied to my whole life." Like I had her convinced, and I'm like,
But it's so funny because it's a theory, yeah. And it was like all the comments on our stuff, like, "Oh, you think this is actually real? There's no way the moon was placed there because there's other moons." And it's like, guys, this is a theory.
I know.
Don't take it with a grain of salt. Like,
I wish the people that watched us on TikTok, because we got a good amount of views on our TikTok, and I wish the people that watched us on TikTok would watch this because they could understand that, like, we're not saying that this is fact. Like, we're saying this is 100% a theory that we've heard about that we thought was interesting. I mean, we've never said this is it. Like, this is the only way it can be.
Yeah, and it's funny because they see our TikTok 2MM, so they think this is such a serious podcast, but it means two morons and a mic.
Oh, I know.
This isn't the most serious podcast.
We're literally just joking around.
It's just talking. It's just sharing our thoughts.
That's what I like. I mean, when I started watching, there was, like, you brought up true crime. I started watching a true crime podcast, and it's so serious.
Yeah,
like it's so like structured into the facts.
Get the facts.
Yeah.
But I mean that's how crime has to be, right?
Well, I mean,
you got to get all the facts and everything.
Well, of course, and they've found their niche, and I'm not trying to rip apart another podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely found what they're trying to go for. I mean, and that's what I didn't want with this podcast. I wanted this podcast to be very conversational. We have so many interesting conversations already that, like, why not film them?
You remember our first podcast though? That was structured.
Oh my God.
We were so tense and just like.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, and now that we've been on camera for a few episodes, I mean, we're still loosening up, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're not like, Joe Rogan loose, where he's 1,800 episodes in.
Yeah, like we've kind of started to ignore the microphones, ignore the camera, ignore the computers, and just kind of just talk.
Yeah.
Which a podcast should be. So
one of the things that I'm pretty happy about too is that, like, we finally are starting to get into this, like, being able to joke, right? It's not all serious.
Yeah,
like,
it was super serious.
We were just like locked in, dead serious. And then the other thing too is I'm glad that we finally got rid of the echo, because there was an echo and the voices, and the editing was like, oh my God.
You could just hear everything. Yeah.
No, I'm definitely excited for what we have. I mean, the biggest thing is our consistency, and if we weren't so busy so much outside of this podcast, both of us work all day, and so it's hard to edit a video, especially when we want to try to make it as best as possible to get it out Tuesday and Thursday like we planned. But hopefully,
I know we're getting new people at my work. Hopefully they pick up some of the slack, because I I do everything at
Mhm.
my work. I'm like the one for everything.
Mhm.
People are calling me all the time, hey, do this, do that, and then while everyone else just sits and watches me,
Yeah.
you know.
No,
So
I definitely feel that, and I hope that we can get more on a what do you call it? A schedule. You
yeah,
know.
we talk about not being structured, but we want to be structured in that regard.
Well, yeah,
It's
when
got
it
to be
comes to the actual business side of it and actually trying to
releasing, yeah.
release our content, because, a lot of people were so interested in our first podcast that we wanted to get out more, but we have to film it and then edit it and make sure it's all good. I mean, we finally got our intro.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of an intro.
well,
I feel like we can
a
improve
rough
on that.
start,
Yeah.
to it. And then
Yeah.
the other thing too is Caitlin has this big calendar. It's our whiteboard calendar
Yeah,
that I want to get up and put it on this wall so we can
it'd be
mark
good to keep
down
track.
and
We should really
pick
set
out
up a
certain days.
schedule, not just Tuesday and Thursday uploads. We should start upload certain TikToks on this day, get
Yeah.
Instagram posts on this day, set up editing time so we can just get it all down.
That's another thing too. I mean, we can ask the people watching us is, do they prefer it on YouTube? They prefer it on Spotify? Do they listen to it on both?
I
Do
mean,
they
we're looking
want
at the stats, and it's skewed towards YouTube, but
Mhm.
Spotify and Apple Podcasts are up there too. I think we can't ignore one or the other.
No,
because we
and
want to give people choices.
No, and when I was trying to phrase that question, I wasn't saying like we're taking it off. What I was trying to say is like a lot of people obviously they liked our clip. I mean, we had a good amount of people go and look at our clip,
Yeah.
and that's what we want to do is try to figure out how we can, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up. We're trying to figure out how we can bring on guests. We have some interesting people that we know in our personal lives that we would love to bring on. But if there's anybody, that would be interested or is in the local area that has a good story,
Metro Detroit area.
yeah, if you could figure out a way to reach out to us, or even if you didn't live in local Detroit, if you had we could do a Zoom one. We can try to figure that out. We're both going to be going away to college in a few weeks, so we're gonna have to figure that out too, because we go to separate colleges, and in a few months I'm probably going to be going to Texas
for a couple months.
Yeah, for a couple months, so that we're gonna have to figure that out too. But anyways, we are very interested in what other people have to say, and so we don't want to just seclude it to just us. We want to be able to not necessarily interview, but just have a nice conversation. Even if you were to talk about random things that you've heard or other things, we're interested in that, and that's what we're trying to work on and constantly trying to get better, and so that's what we're going to keep continuing to do.
Yeah. So let's just get straight into it. I know you had something you really wanted to talk about. We were talking about it actually before the podcast too.
Atlantis?
Yeah, Atlantis.
Yeah, so I was watching this really interesting, I don't know if I'd call it's kind of a documentary. I mean, but it's more of a archaeology thing where they're trying to find Atlantis.
Yeah, it's like a adventure search.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. Shout out to them, because they have great educational stuff on National Geographic.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was listening to was called Atlantis Rising, and it was fascinating because you hear about Atlantis and you see it in movies like what's the one with the big Hawaiian guy?
Oh, Moana.
Aquaman.
Oh.
Moana.
I was off.
Yeah, that's the one.
I was off.
Aquaman, and with Amber Heard.
Yeah.
And
we all know that one.
Oh yeah.
No, Aquaman too.
So Aquaman, they talk about Atlantis, right? That's like his home where he's come from. Of
course.
And it's the city under the water. And so I always found it interesting because I was like, well, could that be real? Well, I doubt there's people living underwater, but I mean, that would be interesting.
Well, no. I mean, the whole basis behind it was that it was above water.
Yeah.
And then it went underwater.
Yeah, so that's what they said in this show. So in the show, they're trying to find it because it's described in writings that it is in a 3-layered city in the water, and they had a harbor for boats and all that stuff back when boats probably weren't as technologically advanced as our boats we have now.
Sailing ships.
Yeah, and so they had a harbor, and it was like a 3-ring system with the middle had a temple for Poseidon, because they believed in God and the Greek gods, and So Plato actually talks about it, and there was a quote that I was going to have Jonathan pull up so I can get the exact right here. Where is it at, Jonathan? Oh, there we go. So it says Plato describes Atlantis as an island larger than Libya and Asia Minor put together, located in the Atlantic just beyond the Pillars of Hercules, generally assumed to be the Strait of Gibraltar. Its culture was advanced and it had constitutions suspiciously similar to one outlined in Plato's Republic, in quotations. It was protected by a god Poseidon who made his son Atlas king and namesake of the island and the ocean that surrounded it. As the Atlanteans grew powerful, their ethics declined, their armies eventually conquered Africa as far as Egypt and Europe as far as Tyrrhena?
Tyrrhenia?
Oh, it says Etruscan.
A part of Italy.
Yeah, Italy. Before being driven back by Athenian-led alliance. Later, by way of divine punishment, the island was beset by earthquakes and floods and sank into the muddy sea.
That's by history.com.
Yeah,
so that's pretty reliable source.
I've never heard of them, but hopefully
history.com.
Yeah, I've never heard of them.
You don't know the History Channel?
Oh, is that them?
That's the History Channel. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess they are pretty reliable.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So one of the things that they were trying to figure out is because a lot of this is all due to interpretation. Atlantis, they say, was what was it, past the Pillars of Hercules, and on the Strait of Gibraltar. They originally thought it could be in between Sicily and Italy. They thought that the pillars could be the landmarks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they eventually came out to Spain over by Portugal, right at the tip of the Atlantic. There, apparently it slims down at a certain point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they think that could be it. And the whole show, I don't want to give the whole thing away for people who end up wanting to watch it, but it was really, really interesting to see them follow it. And they had diving teams, and they would go down there, and they found pillars from long time ago. And then they even talked about how Atlantis could potentially be on land, and the land, just kind of grew past it, which seems kind of different than what I would think, because I feel like our shorelines have been kind of shrinking, in my opinion.
I mean, from global warming, was global warming a thing back then?
Well, the Earth gets hot
and
cold. I mean, it goes in cycles, right? And so, they could have been at a time. I mean, in the Plato's writings, he said he's heard it from his grandfather, who heard it from somebody else, and then somebody else said it was 9,000 years before them, and so they don't know in Plato's description if he believes in it necessarily.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He talks about it as if he does. So I mean, again, I don't know if this is realistic or not. The whole show was very interesting, how they broke it all down.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting. I mean, imagine if there was a whole city preserved underneath the water.
Yeah, and you were saying they actually found pillars under the water?
Oh, a ton of stuff. And it was all in different spots. It wasn't just found in the water in one location. It was when they were going through the Mediterranean, they found so many different pillars and steps and archways, ancient archways, and
wow.
And it was crazy. And they had wheels, and everything was stone. And for the most part, coral was just growing over top of it. Mm-hmm. But they could tell by the way that the carvings were in it that it must have been, I don't know, do they consider it a column, or what's the difference between a column and a pillar? Because the one had the opening in the middle so that a beam could go up the middle of it, and they just stack it on top.
Yeah.
I don't know if that one's a column or a pillar.
I think a pillar might be structural, and a column might
not be.
I don't know.
I don't know the difference between them, but all I know is that they found different things of that, and they went days without finding anything, and they were getting really frustrated, and then they ended up finding something at the bottom, and all of it is due to new technology. They had this really big diving boat out there, and they had radar going underneath.
And their LiDAR?
Yeah, no LiDAR this one. But yeah, and then I watched a bunch of interesting shows off of that, because on National Geographic they have a ton of interesting stuff. They talk about Göbekli Tepe in one of them, which is in, I believe that's in Mexico, Göbekli Tepe. And then they talk about the Incas and the Mayans,
Yeah.
and how the Mayans were so advanced with mathematics in this. I don't want to mess this up, but they have a temple. The Mayans have a temple that on the summer solstice and the winter solstice, when the sun shines on it, the snake is either going down the stairs or going up the stairs.
Yeah.
And every single temple in the Mayan cities are all perfectly aligned with each other. So there was a city of four big temples,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the one middle one, right? And it was exactly straight, every single way, except for one building. It was off by like 16 feet. And the way that the Mayans did it is that everything had to be so precise. So they're trying to figure out why there's a temple that would be so far off of everything else, even though it's supposed to be part of it all. And then one of the biggest towers that they found, and one of the oldest towers, was actually, they found out there's another tower connected to it by a tunnelway that they have blocked off. I don't know. I believe it was a tomb that they had it blocked off. But they found out actually that the other building is older than the one that they thought was the oldest. The one right next to it. And so that was pretty interesting. And yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff on there, and that is quite interesting. If anyone has Disney Plus, I would highly suggest watching the National Geographic stuff. They have a bunch of them on like our national parks and things like that, but I haven't watched any. I haven't gotten to all of them yet.
Discovery Plus too.
We're
signed in on that, and that has a ton of interesting stuff. Even you might even say more depending on what you're looking at, because it's got like 5 different channels and everything.
Yeah, they have forbidden stuff on there. Like, I love ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of like museums, forbidden museums, and other episodes on there that are quite interesting. Ancient Aliens, which is another one that I find to be interesting now that I've getting a little bit more into what they consider to be aliens. And Discovery Plus is good too. I don't want to not shout out them, but they're good too.
Yeah. But I mean, talking about these ancient civilizations, how about we get into some new civilizations?
Oh yeah, that one starting in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia. There was it's a rendering right now, but it's called The Line.
Okay.
Is what I've heard it referred to as, and it's gonna be basically a skyscraper that's taller than the Empire State Building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think, 70 miles long.
Whoa.
And it's this long, straight skyscraper that's on the outsides. It's a mirror, so it almost blends into this sand desertscape of the desert, and you barely even see it. And it's just these whole cities are self-contained inside of the skyscraper. So we have a video pulled up, and so I don't want to get any facts wrong. So
is this from the actual people who designed it, John? No? Okay. All right, well,
for too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The Line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The Line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions. Residents have access to all their daily needs within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. And the Line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end to end in 20 minutes with no need for cars, resulting in 0 carbon emissions. By leveraging AI technology, services are autonomous, saving you time and effort. Designed by world-leading architects, the Line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. Intelligent solutions create efficiency, and year-round temperate microclimate with natural ventilation. Energy and water supplies are 100% renewable. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, offering a wealth of amenities, providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature. With 40% of the world accessible within 6 hours, at the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive like nothing on Earth seen before. The Line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
Wow.
So that was from the Telegraph.
So, very interesting.
Yeah. Interesting design on what it could be like in the future.
This kind of scares me.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought about, right, with this design is Divergent.
Yeah.
Do you remember how Divergent had the walls, right?
Mhm.
And you got like you were inside. That was it. Don't go over the wall.
Yeah.
Right. Even though this seems like an absolute phenomenal idea, right?
Mhm.
They're compacting everything into this one line. Now they can set up multiple rows of this line and connect them all, and then they have an entire, grid of all these things. The thing that seems to me is that one of the things that the video said was that the Saudi prince is putting up the money.
Mhm.
And as much as that seems great, I feel like that's a lot of control, right?
Yeah.
And with this autonomous stuff and all that, like, what happens if you're inside it and they just say, all right, no one's leaving?
Yeah. Or they because they put the money up, they can enact their own rules or kick you out, kind of like a landlord.
What happens
'Cause that's what
then?
you'd be.
Because that seems like a very expensive way to live, right? That was
Yeah.
a $650 billion thing it said in the video.
Yeah.
Right? So, obviously, it's going to cost a pretty penny to live there.
Yeah.
What are they?
Well, I mean, if it said there was 9 million people living there, so if you kind of,
I guess.
I don't know. We'll have to see what they start coming out with. Well, they want to make profit too. So.
Well, I mean, nobody's going to do it for free.
Yeah.
Like, especially not the Saudis, right?
Yeah.
But then the question comes into it is what happens then to the people who are poor? Like,
Yeah.
is this going to be like a bigger divide
Yeah.
between the rich and the poor? Because they might make a poor version of this,
Mhm.
3-4 miles away. They don't want to look at them.
Yeah.
That's completely just taken over by homeless people who are on terrible drugs, suffering from all these problems that we as a society, even though we have a big homeless population in the United States, we still somewhat take care of them. And so, like, are they just gonna, like, eventually it gives me very futuristic,
Like a utopia. They're trying to make a utopia.
yeah. And it also brings me to, like, if they do end up dividing it by social class, right? Because eventually, like, the people who have the more money are going to be able to afford the nicer version of it, right? We're talking way past, like, let's say they build this and they start building more.
Yeah.
And the poor people are all the way at the bottom of the totem pole. I mean, the Saudi government could literally just be like, gas them. The people who are living in the rich ones aren't going to care. They're not even going to know these people are dying,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden they just kill them. And so that begs the question of, like, who's going to be able to watch over those people who are at the low end? Because I can assure you the people at the high end are only going to care about what's going on in their sector of it.
Yeah. I mean, it could be different lines, as they call it, or it could be like the end closest to the water is the nicer, and as you get, farther down your 70 miles towards the end, it gets worse. So, like, as you get farther, it gets worse, or
Kind of like what we have now.
or the top or bottom. The poor people live along the ground and, set up tents and all that. Or it could also be inside the walls and outside. So,
and that's the thing. Then they'll be able to control you by having you say, oh, you can't come in or you can't come in. And again, to play devil's advocate to what I was saying before about the negative, the positive could also be this could fix the homeless problem, right? with using renewable energy and stuff like that, they might be able to create a place where even everybody of all social classes will be able to live in harmony. Now, in all of history, that's never happened.
Yeah,
right?
it's almost impossible.
So to go and look back and be like, oh, but we can look at this model and it says this works, is practically impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, I get very, like, the Giver vibes, Divergent. And
Hunger Games.
Like, I get, like, those kind of movies, I guess, like, turn my spectacle to what it would be. Oh, is that it?
Yeah. So, they're trying to make a, they're trying to make a utopia.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's not necessarily a bad idea. The problem is like, you have to put a lot of faith that you have enough holding for this to really be able to. I mean, because this could be the solution to fixing the amount of people we have in this world. I mean, I don't think we're overpopulated, but a lot of people do, and especially when it comes to people talking about climate change. I mean, their best solution is to just get rid of people.
Yeah.
I mean, because they need a less carbon footprint. And so this might be able to be a big help into that. And it would be pretty interesting if the United States kept growing, if they were to do, like, sectors and grids, kind of like our highway system, but with these kind of civilizations. I mean, Japan was, I believe, one of the first people that ran out of room and said, well, the only place we can go is up, and they built all the skyscrapers.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't. I just think that you have to be very skeptical, putting a lot of trust that they're never going to try to take anything from you for living there. And the fact is you might have bought this home that you're living in there, but that don't mean crap. They could just be like, sorry.
Yeah, we're shutting this operation down, everybody out.
You're gone. I mean, or just be like, you're a bad tenant.
Yeah.
We don't want you anymore. Goodbye. Yeah. Well, I own it. No.
Yeah.
You might pay for it, but you don't own it.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think it'd be pretty interesting. It looks like a cool concept.
It's really cool, like, what they were showing.
And that's right there is what they're going to use to market it. They're going to be like, look at this cool innovation. Nobody has this. Why don't you come try it out?
Yeah.
And then you go there, and it's like a resort, and you're like, oh, my God, this is great.
Yeah, we got to move here. This family would love this.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, it is cool, like, how they showed, like, the different 5-minute walkable areas that have everything you need right there. And you can just... And then, like, you can get from one end to the other on these high-speed rails in, like, 40 minutes or whatever it was. And so it's cool to think about. It's a utopian design. And I feel like we've seen this one. It's put out there a lot. But, like, how many other designs were there for...
Utopias?
For just, like, anything you see. Like, I mean, we see in downtown Detroit, like, oh, this is what it's going to look like. These are the plans for, you've seen the new Hudson site. I don't know if you've seen that. But it's this modern new building with this, like, there's plants growing all on the top and trees on the rooftop. And it's going to, like, be this great thing. And then, I think, like, a couple months ago, they say, oh, we're removing the plants. We can't put them. It's going to be too heavy. Oh, we got to change this because this is overhanging. And then it just gets to this, like, not so impressive thing. So this 70-mile long skyscraper, oh, it's too long. It's going to cost too much. Let's only do about 2 miles.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So what happens now? They said 9 million people capacity, right?
Yeah.
What happens if people living in there start having kids?
Yeah.
Right? So now you're at 9,500,000.
Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do? Start kicking out people's homes?
Yeah, so there's actually the Hudson site right there. That's the design for the building.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool, like, what they're showing, but you can see the plants in the middle level. Like, I think they said, we can't do that, that's too much weight. So there's all these, you always see these designs, and I mean, I don't think we've really seen any progress, like, real progress.
What happened
on this
for them to build that they were going to build a sports center down there. They were going to rip down the prison that city tried to sell to that guy for a penny that they like half built, and they were going to put a sports dome there for the soccer team.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Right. They promise you this,
and then get nothing in return. And then it becomes this. I think right now there's the middle of the building left, the elevator shaft with the stairs going up it, and they just stopped.
You talking about for the prison?
Yeah. So
Well, yeah, well, that was a dumb design to begin with. They were gonna put a prison right next to Greektown.
yeah,
They were gonna put a prison right next to the Lions Stadium.
yeah,
That doesn't even make sense.
yeah.
But then, the city, I forget who they were trying to sell it to. They tried to sell it to the guy for like $1. And
The site.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
gonna just sell it. They already knew they were taking a loss. They weren't gonna finish it because they ran out of money, and they were gonna sell it to the guy for $1. And the guy like didn't end up buying it because, there was some form of problem with the deal, like that he had to do specific things to keep it in a certain way.
They,
And
they
he was like,
zone the area to
Yeah,
a
and
certain
he was
type
like,
of
"Forget it."
thing, and
I mean, he wasn't planning on buying it for $1 just for himself. I mean, that's prime real estate, right? He could have bought it for $1 and sold it for $1 million or
Yeah.
a couple million, you know.
yeah,
The problem is that I guess there was too many rules or something that he just ended up saying no.
yeah. I mean, if you've been downtown Detroit, like
It's actually nice.
the amount they're like expanding is crazy.
Mhm.
Like they're redoing all the buildings, even like a couple miles out of the city. They're putting new windows in these buildings that were destroyed, and you see
I hope
Ford
so.
Ford Motor Company redoing the train station. That looks really nice,
Mhm.
and so
I do
I
hope
think it's-
so.
I
I mean,
think it's gonna come
when
back.
we hear our grandparents talk about Detroit, they talk about how it was like this thriving, great city, one of the best in America, and then
Yeah.
it just took a shit in the
I mean,
60s.
ever since the
Riots.
not that. Ever since like the automakers got bailed out by the government, I feel like it's never.
Well, it
been the
was that,
same.
and then the riots in the 60s. They were fighting for everyone was fighting for civil rights, and caused a huge problem because all the people that were having money living down there, they were seeing the riots and they were afraid that it wasn't going to stop, and so they started moving farther and farther away from the city.
Yeah.
And then eventually now, like the inner city, like right in downtown Detroit, you can get a real nice apartment there. But then as you start going off, every mile road you get farther away, it gets nicer and nicer, and more people. The trend is always to move away from the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the trend, and so, we have 16 Mile in Hall Road, and then 24 Mile. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, 16 will eventually be what Hall Road is now, and Hall
Yeah.
Road will eventually be what 23 is, and 23 will eventually be what 26 is.
I mean, and that's what we could get from how we were saying these utopias never work. Like even that, in that case, Detroit was so nice at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and then stuff happens and it
Mhm.
falls apart.
Well,
to
that's
what
the
it is
question,
now.
right? I mean, because you can't stop human nature, right?
Yeah.
So if everybody's living in, this gives me also Wall-E vibes, like how like everybody in Wall-E was just like on this yacht, on this like cruise ship
Spaceship.
in space, and
Yeah.
and they were just like all fat and just laying around,
Yeah.
and the thing is like I know they're gonna have autonomous stuff, but like does that mean people are just gonna people are dirty? Like some people aren't always gonna keep it as nice as possible.
Yeah.
And so, are people going to let it get dirty and the autonomous things can't clean it up? And
Yeah.
so they're going to have one part of it be like, oh, you don't want to go to that place. And so, because of human nature, everybody's different,
It's
right?
that one bad apple.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say.
Exactly.
And it might not be one, because there's 9 million, but you get the point.
Yeah, how are you going to stop crime? I guess it's in Saudi Arabia, so the way they deal with crime over there is
It's
completely
very,
different
very
than us.
strict.
Yeah, they could just be like somebody robbed a store and then next day the motherfucker was dead. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would be interesting though. It
Yeah.
definitely would be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Would you ever like that here? Like, let's say they just go from East Coast to West Coast and they just start building these lines next to each other.
Or just one long line.
Well, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But imagine if they did.
I don't know. I just feel like it's too close together. I don't know if society's ready for that. We like having our own space, our own land.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've always liked big cities, the just
Chicago's,
being there
the New Yorks,
and just all the stuff you can do, the experiences, the sporting events, the concerts.
Yeah.
And it's all nice, but you want to get out,
Mhm.
Like I want to get out of the city after a while. I went to school downtown, and it's nice while I'm there, but then I want to get out of there for the summer,
Yeah.
So
Whenever I would go visit Chicago, I fell in love with like Michigan Avenue right downtown. You could go and eat and go to the Shedd Aquarium, and there was all these cool things to do right in downtown. But I was always very thankful to come back home. Like it was fun for the weekend or a week or whatever, but I don't know. Like I don't know. I would love to live in a penthouse. Have you ever watched the show Suits?
No, I know you love it though.
Okay, so I do love it. It's a great show. But one of the things, every time I watch it, I want to be successful.
Yeah.
Like that's like one of the things I always get from that show is like when I see these people and the way that they're living their lives, like it makes me want to be successful as them. They live in these $1 million penthouses in the middle of the city. Have you ever seen what's the other show? It's a girls show.
Gossip Girl?
Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Those penthouses are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it with my girlfriend, and it was like I was watching it because I was like, how are these people this rich? I mean, their houses and their penthouses were insane. But at the same time, I feel like that works if you don't care about having a yard, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they don't have anything like that.
Yeah, I remember I was watching this one video, and this guy was just talking about how stupid these penthouses are.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name's Moist Critical. He's the guy. He's got like long hair.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really funny guy. He's almost a comedian, but I don't know if he considers himself that. But yeah, he's like he finds like the most expensive penthouse in like New York. I don't know if it was the most expensive, but it was just the stupidest. Like this thing was all concrete. There was like a concrete couch, and like the whole like bathroom was covered in gold, and it was like blinding you when you walked in.
Really?
And then like he goes outside onto the patio, and there's like 2 chairs next to like a fire, and he's like, what do you do out here? Like, this is so stupid. This isn't a house. Like,
I mean, some of them are pretty cool though. I mean, like
Yeah.
modern ones, like not a concrete couch, but like
yeah,
you
but
can
like
find some
that's
pretty
what
cool
they
ones.
were trying to go modern, and it was like it wasn't working
Yeah.
at all. It's just like when you have so much money and you're like, oh, this would be a cool idea, and then it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like the city, the
Mhm.
line.
And that's the thing. I mean, that show, like I said, like their penthouses would be so cool to me if I didn't care about a yard. Like I mean, I like having a yard, but would I give it up to live in a multi-million-dollar penthouse? I mean, probably. It just depends.
I get the yard, but I don't know if I could give up all the outdoor activities I like to do.
Well, think of an outdoor activity that you can't just leave the city to go do.
Yeah.
I mean, the city's got a bunch of outside activities you can go do. I mean, you can go shopping, you can go eat, you can go walk around.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have this line, like you're hypothesizing, and everyone lives in there, I feel like all
I
of the
wasn't
outside
talking
would
about the
become
line.
this like barren area.
I was just talking about in general, like living in the city. I mean, you live down there, so.
But who knows? Like, maybe that is the way. You make the line. Everybody's in this contained area, and you're living
That's
this
the
life.
word I don't like.
And that-
Contained, because that's exactly what they're going
But
to use.
I'm just saying,
I get what you're saying.
outside of going into the nature, imagine what nature might do. I mean, it might take back what we've done, and it might actually become nicer than it is now, and you could have better outdoor experiences.
Mm-hmm. The problem is like I think of the outdoor experiences I like is like hunting, fishing, boating.
Yeah, that's
mean-
what I was pointing at.
I mean, I like riding 4-wheelers,
Yeah.
all that, but I
Mhm.
mean, if they're talking about getting rid of carbon emissions, I don't see why they wouldn't start regulating that.
yeah,
Like, oh, what are they? Well, I guess Tesla came out with the quad that
Yeah.
was electric.
they're trying to do electric boats, electric planes.
I don't know why they haven't done electric boats yet. I feel like they could somehow power a
They're
jet
working
ski
on it.
engine
They're
with
working
electric.
They're working on planes too. It's just hard.
Well, planes, okay, planes to me seems way harder because you got to
Yeah.
keep it going at consistent flight speed.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, a boat,
I mean, we have an electric boat. Our dinghy with our trolling
Good
motor,
point.
that's electric.
that is.
But it's just, I don't know. I think it's something about, how when you're looking at the electric cars, they have all the torque and the get up and go, but they don't have that high end speed. And for a boat, you're not looking for that takeoff torque ability.
No, you want to plane out. And
You
you're
want
good.
to plane out
and then you
just
practically go drive it
go.
and sit down.
But when you look at the electric cars, when you're just full throttle, the battery's draining so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the problem.
I mean, think about it though. Like your new Scarab,
Yeah.
like that Rotax engine that they have for the jet
Yeah.
skis. I don't see why that couldn't be powered by 5 or 6 of the batteries that we have.
Yeah.
for
Think
our
about the
car.
weight though, also.
Well, I mean, you compare that in weight of a boat can hold weight. If they have to drop off one extra 350-pound passenger, then oh well. But like, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is I guess it's not a main priority, right? People with boats are just happy the way they are, and they're not trying. I guess they are innovating, but they're not really like pushing for it because not as many people own boats as like cars. Like they're trying to figure out more
the root of the
bigger
problem.
problems first, and then they're gonna go work their way into those.
Yeah.
But all this electric talk about the what you were telling me earlier about NASCAR.
Yeah. So 2023, NASCAR is going electric, and I don't know if it's the entire. I think they're gonna keep the gas series, but it's gonna be a different type of race. That's gonna be purely electric.
That'd be interesting.
And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But then again, like we were talking about with the boats and all that, like it's gonna be interesting to see because they do get that like that torque low end and they take off. But then what happens when they're just full throttling out for the Daytona 500 is 500 laps? Are they just are we not gonna be able to keep the batteries charged up, or are they gonna have a way of replacing the batteries like we talked about kind of in episode 3?
Let me think.
You know, I think like
I get exactly what you're saying, and that's the problem, is that I wonder if this will eventually lead us. Like, let's say we get 10, 20 years in the future, right? So we're past the gas cars. We have the people driving the electric cars. Do you think they will eventually get to, like, real steel? Where, like, the people will be sitting there with a remote
driving
them around, and then there won't be accidents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it will ever get to that? Because Real Steel, to me, was a really good movie.
Yeah.
I loved when they were talking about robots fighting each other instead of boxers. I feel like that would be so interesting.
Yeah. At that point, you can make the cars a lot smaller.
Lighter,
more aerodynamic.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a whole cab in the middle. And so maybe at that point, yeah, like it'd be a battery with motors and just aerodynamic, and you could go for a while.
But that still doesn't bring us to the final issue of how are you going to charge them?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a 15-minute break, or a 15-hour break. We're all going to recharge our cars on lap 3.
Yeah.
So if everybody, like, that doesn't make sense. They're going 200-something miles
an hour.
The
The F-150 Lightning, it goes 130 miles?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the Daytona 500, what is that track? A mile?
I think it's a mile.
It's a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going 500 miles.
John, look that up. Look up if how long the Daytona 500 track is around one time. Pretty sure it's a mile.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they're going 500 miles, no electric car can even do that yet.
That's implying that you're going to be at a constant speed.
2.5 miles. So you're going almost
and it says right here, consistent of 200 laps around a 2.5 mile track. So they do two.
Wait, so the Daytona 500 isn't 500 laps?
No.
Why is it called the Daytona 500?
Maybe. Is the Daytona 500 the longest race? How long is one lap? How long?
Oh, wait, it's 500 miles. 200 laps of 2.5 miles.
Yeah.
So it's 500 miles, not 500 laps.
Yeah.
But still,
I mean,
we don't have a car that can do it. We have, I think, 300.
That's implying that you're stopping, though. I mean, nobody can.
When
they put 300 miles, they're not holding it full throttle.
Yeah.
I mean, you're draining the battery faster than it can. Again, this is back to what we were talking about before. They're trying to push it so hard that the technology isn't there. I would watch. I don't even watch NASCAR, so I'm not even gonna lie and say I'd watch it. But like, I feel like people who would watch NASCAR don't care if it's a gas-powered car or if it's an electric-powered car. The problem is they're not gonna watch it if they're stopping every two laps to recharge.
Yeah, it's like, intermission. We got a couple hours for everyone to go buy a hot dog. It's like, I'm gonna eat this hot dog in 15 minutes. What do I do for the other 14 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't like. They can't expect us as a society to be like, yeah, that's a great idea. How are you gonna do it? And then they'd be like, we haven't quite figured that out yet.
Well, I mean, maybe it won't be the Daytona 500. Maybe it'll be an electric series. We go 100 miles. That's what they could do. I could see that.
And they could do it more like a Grand Prix styled.
Yeah.
Where it's not necessarily a straight circle.
Well, it's NASCAR. It's got to be an oval.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But, I mean, you do look at, like, they have hybrids for Le Mans, I think. Mm-hmm. And so it's a hybrid engine where, you got the gas going and then there's some electric in the back.
But then that's not electric.
And then I think even F1, I think, has, they got their regular engines. I think they do V6s now.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think V6s. And then
in Formula One?
I think they put an electric engine that, you're driving along, you're behind someone with your gas engine, and you get to a straightaway or like an area where you're right on this guy and you want to pass him. You have this button you can click that launches you forward with that electric motor, and you can just go around the person if they're in your way.
Did you ever watch that show, the Formula One show?
No, I haven't watched it.
I don't know what it's called.
Grid? No, that's a video game.
F1 Drive to Survive, Jonathan just said. For
Yeah, no, I
people
haven't
who are
watched
listening and probably can't hear him. He is a big fan of that show, and he's told me to watch it. I have not got to it yet, but I've heard it's interesting. Rush was a good movie.
Yeah.
About Formula One. The other one that I really liked was Ford versus Ferrari.
That was Le Mans.
That was Le Mans, but I mean, okay, but it's still race.
Yeah,
I mean,
racing.
I've never gotten really big. For as much as I love cars, I'm shocked that I never got into racing.
Same.
Like I love cars, but NASCAR to me seems boring.
I mean, it's hard to just watch the cars and just.
I'd rather watch golf.
I love golf. I feel like in person it'd be more interesting.
For sure.
In person,
that's like saying like soccer is fun to watch versus fun to play. I mean, it's much more fun to play than it is to watch. But,
yeah.
I mean, I got nothing against people that watch soccer. It's quite amazing that they can film it and stream it without any commercials. That's pretty cool.
What? Golf?
Soccer.
Oh, soccer.
They don't do any commercials.
Yeah.
Because they just go straight.
Yeah.
Until halftime, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I mean, racing, that brings me up to another point. I just thought of it while we were talking, just racing and everything and F1. And I don't know if you heard the Grand Prix coming back to Detroit. And it's going to be through the streets of Detroit. And people were saying it looks really promising. The track layout and everything is really cool.
I thought they were going to do it on Belle Isle.
Well, Belle Isle already has a race. They do a race on Belle Isle.
Oh, okay. So it's a different one.
Yeah, this one's through the city streets.
Okay.
Along Woodward and all through there.
Yeah.
And so that's something I would go to.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't watch racing, but I think I'd go to that Grand Prix in Detroit.
Well, I mean, again, like you said, it's more about getting out and doing stuff in the city, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if that's happening, that'd be pretty cool to watch.
I mean, this is where cars belong.
Yeah, right?
Detroit, Motor City. Yeah.
So, what were you bringing up, John? You were showing me something over there.
That the Biden administration has offered to exchange Russian arms.
Oh, my God, they ended up doing it.
For Americans, Brittner, Griner, and Paul Beal.
So,
Brittany Griner.
So one of the things that I heard about that is
I don't think they did it yet. They just proposed it.
Bleacher Report, I bet the comments were so bad they stopped the comments on the thing.
I mean,
comment on it.
Okay, so I have mixed feelings about this. I think that this chick was used as a political weapon, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that she was entirely not at fault, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, if a country says you can't have these narcotics, well, what is it? I guess they consider it just like
it's cannabis.
It's a drug. If a country says you can't bring this here, this is illegal here, and you bring it into the country, you're committing a crime.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, how long you're there.
No, I know.
You can't have it.
And that's like I said, this is why I get the mixed feelings, because she obviously did commit a crime, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defend the fact that she did something wrong, like didn't do anything wrong. But I also know that because of what's happening over in Russia right now, that the Russian legal system is going to use her to the max advantage. Yeah. So for a sentence that would have taken, a couple of years or whatever, or 6 months, or maybe even a couple of weeks if they paid her off, or if she paid him off, it will be used to the maximum because she is an American and they want something from us. And so I do feel bad for her with that. The other thing that gets kind of squirrely is that she also has a wife, right? Which that is also homosexuality and being married.
Oh yeah, Russian
is
illegal. Not in Russia. I think they hide everything about that. They don't want to show anything.
And so that's the thing, is that, I mean, not that she got married there, but that is because of how open she is with it. I doubt their legal system looks at it like
the same way. They probably take that into account, you know?
No, for sure. And again, like I said, they're going to put everything they can against
Throw
her.
the book at her.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And so her wife back here in the States has been begging Biden to do something. And Biden, like, didn't he do some half-ass, like kind of like threat towards Russia to get her back? And,
I don't know, but it's so hard to, like...
Pretty sure he did, like, a half-ass threat to them, like, saying, like, we won't negotiate or whatever. And then, like, now, a week later, his approval ratings are down even more. And now he's negotiating a, like, arms dealer that was selling,
arms
like...
dealer for that. And, like, that's a crazy trade.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to give up this criminal who commits violence on innocent people just to rescue this basketball player just because she's famous.
I
don't want to hate on her and be like, she's this terrible person.
That's where we have to be careful because, like, again, she's still an American. You know, we don't want any of our Americans going through anything terrible overseas because God forbid, God knows what she's going through in those prisons. I'm sure it's awful. I'm sure it's terrible.
Like Stranger Things.
There was a guy on Joe Rogan's podcast who went over there and he travels the world. He's from Britain and he went and visited a city or like a place in Russia and Siberia that was like this remote city that doesn't have access to a lot of things, and he just goes and travels around, and he was kind of sneaking across different borders and looking at different stuff, and the Russians arrested him and claimed he was a spy, and he got put in jail for like 6 months. So, and then he like had to fight to get out, and there was a whole legal process that he said he really didn't get like to explain himself to the judge. The judge said you're done, and like
they have judges.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
don't know.
They do. They have judges, but like they're not. I think he said it was like a Tuesday night. They like woke up this judge, and the judge was like, "Send him. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, just put him away.
Yeah,
like,
I got better stuff to do.
Yeah, he's
I got this vodka bottle.
Yeah, and so again, I don't want anything bad to happen to her, but I also understand both sides. I mean, I think that it's a little extreme, but it's the law. I mean, it always comes back to, did she follow the rule? Yeah. I mean, if she was out doing something else illegal, we'd still say she was doing something illegal. If she did absolutely nothing wrong, that's when you start getting into, okay, so now it's completely political.
Yeah.
But, she still did commit a crime. Yeah. And if she wasn't famous, would we even hear about it? I don't know.
Maybe not. And, like, that's, if you think about it, if, I think Amsterdam, where they have, like, the prostitution thing, like the red light district, that's legal there. But if someone comes at and does it in America, they're arrested. Mm-hmm. And are we going to be like, oh, yeah, it's legal in that country, so we don't care? Yeah. It's like, no, it's illegal here. Mm-hmm. They're a criminal now.
And and again, but this is where it gets so squirrely because of Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. You are an illegal immigrant. You illegally came here. But we're really not doing anything. And that's what's so sad. I mean, finally, the Texas governor is sending him all the way to Washington, D.C. and dropping him off at the Capitol steps with buses, which is a great, screw you to the Biden administration for being such a failure on that front. I mean, there's a difference between making the process easier and letting them across.
Yeah.
And thousands. It was like 18,000 a day or something, or 18,000 a month.
I feel like it'd be even better to make, like, if you make it easier and they can actually have their like, rights, passports and, like, everything and be documented, it'd make their life easier, too. Because I don't know where I heard this, but, like, say you're an illegal immigrant and you're working on a job site, and I don't know if you told me this, but, like, say you get hurt and they're like, okay, let's take you to the hospital. And then you go there and it's like, well, I don't have my papers, or like any papers, or like I'm not even a citizen here. Like, they're trying to look you up. Who should we contact? Oh, they're in Mexico. And it's like, okay, so now they found you out. Now they're going to send you back.
Yeah.
So, like, if it's better just to find a way to get them to actually.
The problem is like people like to say, well, going to Canada is so easy compared to going to Mexico. The problem is people coming from Canada into Mexico, or coming from Canada into the United States, aren't usually bringing across, drugs and other problems with them. I mean, they're just people coming across that are just, have the same laws that we do.
Yeah.
And the way that the cartel runs Mexico, that gets really bad, is because they don't have the same regulations. And so I guess one of the bigger problems too is that there was a whole. Did you hear about the semi truck that was in a field?
Yeah, yep, I heard about that.
Yeah,
it was
where they
just sitting in there, and there were people in the back.
So they were driving on back roads up to the United States, and they were taking the back roads, so they were trying not to be detected.
Yeah.
And they ran out of gas, and the guy who was driving the car for them just got out and ran away.
Yeah.
And left like 40-something people in the bed of this truck.
Locked from the outside.
Locked from the outside. And I think 26 of them died because it was over 100 degrees during the day, and inside of that metal container, just imagine burning a lot, like literally just like melting.
Cooking.
Yeah. I mean, it was terrible. And this is the thing. They just don't care. They're just trying to get across. They think that the life over here is going to be so much better than where they're coming from.
And it is, though.
Well, of course, but they don't know that. They're going with an assumption that it is.
Yeah.
And they're risking their lives, and they're giving up their families' lives.
And the person getting them in just wants the money.
Of course.
So.
And the thing is like there was plenty of stories of women giving birth to their babies on top of ladders over the border so their child would be considered an American citizen. Like trying to bust over the border so that they could hurry up and have their kid, so that their kid would be considered an American because he was born on American soil. I mean, and I'm not completely for letting everybody in, but if they could make the process maybe a little easier and have a better vetting process, I don't see why that would be
if
a
they're
negative.
documented.
Yeah, I mean, if they
however we can do that.
If they're a Mexican citizen who isn't a criminal, they should be able to apply, and it should be fast. But I mean, it's still got to be done legally. There has to be requirements. It's not just the same as letting them right across the Rio Grande and just letting them walk in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible. I don't know why anyone would do that. I mean, we have immigrants coming from all these other countries every day.
Yeah.
Flooding into the United States all the time. But they're coming in legally. They're doing it the right way. I guess their living conditions would be different, but I don't know. I mean, it just seems kind of outrageous to me that they are just doing nothing, right? And these Border Patrol agents are just getting ripped apart because they're watching people die.
I wouldn't want to be a Border Patrol.
I wouldn't want to be any law enforcement right now. There's so much terribleness going on with the Border Patrol and the police, and the only ones that I seem to not get any problems is the fire department. Yeah. Because the fire department, they just come and put out your fires, and they're done.
They do good stuff.
Yeah, it's sad. It really
Support
is.
Your local firemen.
I mean, it's really funny because the people who are saying defund the police, when they get robbed, are the first people to call the police. So it's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't ask them to be defunded and want them to not be there, but then call for them the second that. I mean, what was it? The mayor of Chicago? She got robbed at her house, and she called the police after saying that she wanted to defund them all in Chicago. I mean, and then you look at cities who have all of these defund the police, like Los Angeles. Look what's happening in Los Angeles. Yeah, everybody's just robbing everything. It's like they're
homelessness, drugs.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's really sad to see because, you know, if you ask anybody, I'm pretty sure they would say next to Hawaii that California would be one of the most beautiful states. But it's also, if you ask anybody where would they not move to, they usually say California because nobody wants to live there. Yeah. So, but again, I think that we had a good podcast today, and we talked about a lot of good things. Yeah. And episode 4. Yeah,
episode 4 in the books. Just editing now and.
Yeah, so now we'll have this uploaded on YouTube hopefully by potentially Friday, because we're gonna be a day late. We got drawn back yesterday. Josh had to take his parents to the airport. We're gonna hopefully go from here.
Get more clips.
Yeah. Hopefully we got a couple out of this. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. We're not that interesting.